Hi, I really want to make this video. I actually made it like literally just a second ago, but my mic didn't work and that's really annoying. So I want to make this video in a more artistic way. I want to like really do it well, but I don't have that in me right now. I don't even have the technology for that. So I'm just going to make it right now and probably do it again later. So this is my opinion on twin flames. I used to be really into twin flames. I used to follow the concept all the time. And I've kind of taken a step back because I see a lot of misinformation and bullshit online, and it kind of just is what it is. And I don't like it. I don't resonate with it. I don't really understand it. So yeah, I'm gonna talk about what I believe twin flames are, what I believe a narcissistically abusive relationship is, all that kind of stuff. So here we go. So you are a soul, and your soul has lived many lives, and in each life you live you have all this like curriculum. Also, I already lit a candle and I'm gonna light it again. It's my intention candle. I intend for the messages to be clear and concise and accurate and true and grounded, and to help me make this video again, God, because I'm just like really annoyed that I have to make it again. Anyway, so yeah, so we have like many experiences as a soul, and a lot of souls, have a certain amount of curriculum that they learn in this life, and it's already set up, and each soul has a lot of relationships, and soul relationships are all of our relationships because we are a soul experiencing a human experience, and so our soul experiences this life and our soul experiences each relationship. And I think a lot of people don't think of relationships like that because we have these like ideas about what they are and all that kind of stuff, and we also have ideas about like what a soulmate is and stuff. And I think that all soul relationships, all of our relationships are connected to our soul, and each soul relationship has its own like rhythm and its own theme, and it's sort of like a personal symphony between the ever evolving lives and karmas and stories between two souls. Like maybe your mother was your sister in a past life, and maybe in the life before then your mother was like your housekeeper. So like this one soul that you have a relationship with throughout the lives, like in one life you and that soul were like miss like lady of the house and her housekeeper, and in another life you guys were sisters, and in another life your mother daughter. It's like that's kind of what it's like, so each soul relationship is its own story of many things, of multitudes, and each soul relationship kind of has its own theme, like maybe one soul connection between like friends throughout the lives kind of gives off the feeling of like a field of flowers, and maybe a more difficult relationship could give off the feeling of like a dark castle or something. But it's like each soul relationship has its own theme, okay? In a twin flame connection, going off this like string of pearls metaphor as the soul, a twin flame connection is when two sides of that string meet and become a necklace, and then the awareness of that necklace has to go back through all the lives until there's complete oneness, and that connection, that circle, creates a portal directly to God. And so the theme of the relationship between those two souls is not a relationship between two souls. It's the theme is oneness with everything. And so our reality is based off of separation. And so when there's two people who happen to be inhabiting the same soul, their soul has incarnated into two different bodies. That is something that is very profound, and kind of shakes up the nature of reality, just by proxy of being even in any form of interaction with that person. Now, I don't know if I fully believe that to be possible, I do believe that there are connections that are alchemical and that they create alchemical love. And that means that, that connection is sort of like the purifying fire that burns away everything false and that burns away everything um, untrue. And that creates more and more and more and more and more truth. And that kind of love is unconditional, and there's no one theme that it is, it's everything. And so these kinds of spiritual connections are extremely rare. They're probably like the rarest connection that exists in this reality. And I would say that most people who think that they're experiencing a twin flame connection are not. They're either experiencing a soulmate connection and they're calling it a twin flame connection, and that's usually okay if the person who they're with is nice and loving and good, or they're experiencing an abusive relationship and the catharsis of it and the toxicity of it, they're making a spiritual excuse for it and calling it a twin flame relationship, and that's sort of perpetuating this toxicity that they don't actually have to be a part of, right? And then like another one is like, people who are obsessed with a celebrity or a married person, and there's a form of delusionalness with that, right? And unfortunately, I see this a lot more than I would like to. And I see this a lot more than I would like to on like twin flame videos and forums. It's usually not those extremes. It's usually a smaller iteration of the third category of just being kind of, stuck on someone who is not giving you the light of day. And that's really hard, And, I'm not trying to say that if you love someone and they're not there right now, that they're like not your twin or they're never going to be there. It's delusional. Like, it's not really my place to tell you who you are and what your connection is. And I just want to caution people, because it's a very strong statement to say that you're a twin flame, or to even think of it that way, because twin flames are a mystery school, meaning it's one of the most secret, ancient, universal, occult subjects out there. And I think a lot of people haven't really known about it, or don't always know about it. And I think for good reason, because a lot of us don't want to actually come into full communion with ourselves. A lot of us don't want to experience complete oneness. Our souls do, because our souls remember what it was like before we forgot who we are, and experienced ego and separation and all the bizarre suffering of that, right? Our soul wants oneness, but usually people come to this subject, the twin flame subject, from a place of ego, from a place of emptiness, from a place of wanting a perfect partner to save them. A lot of people, I think because the topic has become so sensationalized, I think a lot of people project their own idea of romance onto a twin flame belief system. And I think that, in my perspective of what twin flames are, it's pretty much the furthest from the truth, because a lot of romantic relationships are based off of image and individual needs and ideas about what is right and wrong and lust, ultimately, unfortunately. And these are all like very worldly, material things that don't really have anything to do with the soul. And when a relationship with another person is like, everything about it is supposed to grow your soul, it's like there's not really a lot of room for any of that. And a lot of the time it isn't that. And I truthfully find it very dangerous and kind of disrespectful to the mystery. Sorry, I had to get sleep out of my eye. For people to project that label onto their very ego-driven needs and desires, and it's just, it's dangerous because this topic is true magic. It's a magical situation, and when people misinterpret heavy magic, they really hurt themselves. Like, this path is a pathway to enlightenment, and it's not a path that you can choose. Okay, it's a path that reveals itself to you if your soul has incarnated in that particular way. And it's not for the faint of heart. And I think if people really found out what it really was, like if anybody watching those YouTube videos about how your man's coming back or whatever the fuck, those women out there who are online pining for this man, if you really knew what a twin soul connection is about, and if you experienced just a fraction of it for like 5 minutes in your life, if it just showed up for 5 minutes, you would not want it. You would not want it. It would not be what you think. It would probably be a lot more and a lot worse, because it's really scary to have every single illusion that you've ever held on to broken in front of you in such a short amount of time. A lot of us actually really enjoy our illusions. We enjoy our stuff. We enjoy the values that our parents gave us. We enjoy our worldview. We enjoy our gender identity. We enjoy the things that make us who we think we are. And usually who we think we are is acceptable to what we were taught is acceptable, right? And when someone comes along into your life and has a beautiful face and looks and feels like your soul, and then by being in their presence, it just rips everything, every comfort that you've ever had, it just rips it out of you. That's really scary. I would think that a twin flame connection is like a continuous prolonged ego death. And if any of you have taken psychedelics and have experienced an ego death or have experienced an ego death in some other means, you know that it's not always pretty. Sometimes it's actually really terrifying, and experiencing that with another person who's also experiencing that is bound to create situations that look like a runner chaser phase, or look like, those kinds of things, and those symptoms that I think are kind of stupid, actually, because it's, the twin flame thing is so unique that it's like there wouldn't even be enough people out there to make a list of symptoms, right? But I think back in like 2003 or whatever, when the internet was smaller and there were people who were experiencing these things, they created little subcultures and groups to connect with, because they were like, I don't know who to talk to about this, right? And that's valid, and those I think are real, but it's like our society has kind of run with it, and the original like symptoms were just the sort of natural byproducts of the ego dying in relation to oneness, and that sort of being acted through two people coming together and then coming apart, which is what it is, right? It is what it is. But when I hear about people who are like in abusive relationships, and the person leaves them, they're like, oh, he's just the runner. It's like, no, dude, like, no. If the relationship that you guys have is mutually growing, both of you, and, think about like maybe that's something, just think about like, what have I gained from this relationship and what have I lost, right? Because that will tell you a lot about who it is and who they are to you. I would say that the biggest difference between a twin flame connection and a narcissistically abusive relationship is that in a twin soul connection, everything becomes more love and becomes more wisdom. And in a narcissistically abusive relationship, everything becomes more soul loss, and everything becomes more destruction and manipulation. And it's just hard to witness so many people using this label to propel themselves further and further into delusion. It's just, and it makes complete sense, because as a collective we have wounds and we have voids, and we want someone to save us, and we want true love, and we want a relationship, and we want, to feel peace. But we don't realize that, like, we already have that. We can actually just find that from within. I think a lot of twin flame teachers, at least the ones who I've followed, who I felt were experiencing an authentic twin flame situation, they're deleting their content about twin flames. They're no longer talking about it. And I think it's because um, they've realized that most people who are following their videos actually are not twin flames and never will be. And I think when people are on a twin flame path, everything becomes love, and that is so beautiful that you see your love in every person you meet. And so I think a lot of people were naive and thought that because they had what that beautiful love is, that they could help other people find that too. And it's like, no, babe, like your clients' souls did not agree to like experience that level of mastership in this life. You know, you can't help someone find a twin flame. That's like totally out of your scope of practice. That's like God's work, not yours. But you can help someone love themselves, right? And I think it's true that like people who are experiencing real twin flame connections do have profound spiritual gifts, because being in that kind of connection that, you know, propels you into such a huge contrast of pain and separation and complete oneness. That level of contrast is so huge that it creates profound alchemy, and it creates ascended masters, and it creates people who have the potential to become ascended masters. And that's huge. And I think that's also a good discernment point to ask yourself, like, am I destined to heal the pain, the suffering, and the karma from not just this life, but every single life that I have ever experienced, to the point where I see through all the illusions in this reality and become like extremely powerfully psychic, to the point where I'm an ascended master? Am I supposed to be an ascended master in this life? And like, you know, be honest with yourself. Like, your soul knows how much healing you have set yourself up to do. And I would say a lot of us are not meant to become Jesus in this life. I believe Jesus is an ascended master, and I believe that Jesus could have been a twin flame, and I believe that true twin flames become so spiritually masterful that they become sort of like Christ. It's a really, really intense and heavy and meaningful thing to call yourself a twin flame, if we're talking about the original definition. And I see a lot of, you know, people out there who are like in a basic ass relationship, and they're like, oh my god, this is my twin flame, and it just feels so sacrilegious, because it's like, you're not that enlightened, dude. And like, only like very enlightened people, only very enlightened souls are even capable of experiencing that, because most souls who are very young, it's like, if they had that kind of experience, it would like blow them up, because it's so intense. And I think that's, you know, not always completely true, because like everyone has their own path, and I think there are younger souls who can experience that, and it's just a different iteration of it, I guess. But what I'm trying to say is that like, that level of healing and that level of intensity is something that is so rare that there's really not even much of a need to wonder if you're experiencing it, because you're probably just not. Sorry. You're probably in like a soulmate relationship that is so beautiful that you call it a twin flame connection. And it's like calling your domestic cat a tiger, and like, that's fine, you know, like calling your cat a tiger is not going to hurt you if you love your cat, and if it's like if it improves your life, you know. But if you get a raccoon from the side of the road that likes to bite your hand and you call it a tiger, it's kind of like, no, dude. It's not a tiger. Like, just because it bites your hand doesn't make it a tiger. And also, if you have a domestic house cat and you actually meet a real tiger, you might not actually like the real tiger that much. I don't know if that's like a good metaphor, but that's what I'm trying to say. And then when it comes to like twin flame teachers trying to help people out, it's like, I feel like it's the vibes of like an Olympic swimmer who's like, I'm going to teach you how to be in the Olympics. And it's like, no, you're not. Like, most of your students are not meant to be Olympic swimmers, but you're going to teach them how to swim. You're probably going to teach them how to swim better, but they're probably not going to become Olympic swimmers, you know? And so I think a lot of teachers are getting burnt out a lot of like true twin flame people are getting burnt out because they've built their business models off of like their love connection and being honest, because it's a very beautiful thing to be like, oh my god, like this is what I'm experiencing, this is what I've learned from it, okay, I love all of you, right? But it's like a lot of people are naive in that they don't realize that most people are never going to experience that, and that like people just feel your love and they bounce off of that, and it like helps them alchemize and heal their own like lives and bodies and stuff. Like you don't need to create a business off of your relationship. It's more like, and I understand why they would do it, because it's like that level of love, it helps you see through all illusion and helps you see the healing path that every person, I'm gonna let my cat in, hi baby, that every person sees. Like if when you've healed that much inside of yourself, it's very easy for you to help other people heal. And so of course, you would want to bring that there. It's like the love is so big that you want to just give it to everybody and help everybody. I just feel like it's better if you like say, hey, let me help you heal. This is me and my partner. We're gonna help you heal, instead of being like twin flames unite. It's like, no, dude, no. Like that's not grounded. And I think that Christ, to make it about ascended masters, probably did tell people like, hey, you can be like me, you can become me. And it's true in a sense to where we all can, and we all can enlighten ourselves. However, in this reality, I'm not entirely sure, like, I'm not entirely sure how, oh my god, such like sharp nails, how possible that really is. I mean, my friend did tell me this one time that like Buddha, when Buddha was around, like back in the day, like people would reach enlightenment just by being in his presence. And so that's very true. Just however, right now in my gut, like I just don't feel like that's true right now for people. I don't feel like everyone is becoming enlightened. I don't feel like everybody is on the pathway towards being enlightened. I think if that was the case, we would have a lot less wars right now. I think that we're entering a period of time where the potential is growing and where the doors are opening and where our society is improving. I just don't see that self-work. I don't see that alchemy. I don't see that truth in people who follow twin flame teachers right now, and people who are really engrossed in that. I see quite the opposite. I see a lot of obsession. I see a lot of delusion. I see a lot of control, and true love doesn't need any control at all. It just is. And yeah, so just, I really advise you to just check yourself and ask yourself why you really are doing what you're doing, and you'll find everything you need in the center of your being, and in the silence and in the magic of your most authentic self. And in that place, like that's where your true partner comes, no matter, regardless of whether they're your twin or not. It just is what it is. So that's what I have to say about twin flames. You don't need to force it. If someone's married or is a famous person, please just leave them alone, okay? Just leave them alone. Don't cheat, don't manipulate, no. If it's been like 20 years, like maybe you want to let them go. Maybe let them go. The best way to attract love is to like fucking live your life, And the only reason why I'm really making this video is to just provide some form of grounded discernment. There's a real true ancient thing behind all those ads with people who are like, oh my god, manifest your twin flame with me. It's like, no, like there's a real concept, there's a real beauty behind that our society has kind of made trendy and appropriated essentially, and has now projected our own toxic belief system and toxic understanding of a traditional romantic relationship onto this like multi-dimensional ancient concept about reaching oneness. And it's perfect in a very horrible funny way. It's sort of like the vibes of those like freaking Christian people knocking on your door that are like, do you want to know God? And it's like Jesus Christ would have not wanted that, you know? And it's like people don't understand that. And so it's funny because it's like ultimately the true mystery of twin flames will actually always be hiding, because it's so profound that there's only a couple people who will ever really know about it. And there's also people who have respect for it and who can intellectually understand it and know that, like, you know, there's never gonna be that in their life, maybe, right? Or that, you know, or people on the outside who see it who are like, that's crazy. And then people on the inside who are believing that they're experiencing it and they're not. Okay, maybe I'm talking too much. Anyway, yeah, feel free to leave a comment, tell me off, tell me how crazy or full of shit or wrong you think I am. That's you know, do whatever you want. That's your prerogative. If you disagree with me, just don't be like rude or whatever, and like don't give me weird vibes. Like fuck off, please, with love and respect. Yes. Um yeah, and or feel free to, you know, ask me any questions, tell me your concerns, tell me what you think, tell me off politely. And please, 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 please do not beat yourself up. Okay, we all go through what we go through. We all have beliefs. We transcend them for reasons, you know, for us to understand ourselves in the world better. So regardless of like wherever you fall in the spectrum of things, just know that like you're learning from this and allow yourself to learn from this. Okay, I'm gonna clean my house now. Have a good night.